I was 17 when I finally told my old man I was done with baseball. From the time I could walk, he had me swinging a bat. He'd played semi-pro in the 80s, blew out his knee, and never got over it. He called me his second chance. Practice every day, even Christmas. Pitching machine in the garage, two-a-days in the summer. My brother, Brian, older by 4 years, was the family's real pride. Honors student, now a mechanical engineer. My mom bragged on him non-stop. Me? I was the ball player. But when I choked during the Midwest Regional Showcase, muffed a grounder in front of scouts from 3 colleges, Dad didn't say a word driving home. Next morning, he looked at me dead in the eye and said, "I guess I wasted my best years chasing a lie." That was it for me. I boxed up my cleats and never touched a glove again. I took a job at a tire shop, then enrolled in trade school. Never looked back, or so I thought. 10 years later, my brother was getting married to some girl from a rich family, Natalie, country club type. Wedding was set at this place called Brookside Vineyards. Fancy setup, real high dollar. At the family dinner, my mom drops it on me. Troy will say a few words at the rehearsal dinner, a toast, a little something personal about growing up with Brian. Not a request, a statement, just like the old days. I laughed, thought she was joking. "You can do that much, can't you?" she added, cold as ever. Everyone stared at me. Brian gave me that same tired look, like he was bracing for me to screw it up. I said sure, fine, whatever. That night, I couldn't sleep. 10 years gone, and somehow I was back in uniform, expected to play my part. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to will myself to sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, my brain replayed the same loop. The dinner table, my mom's face, that damn toast. I hadn't touched a bat in years, but somehow I was back in that world, back to where I had once failed. The pressure was already starting to crawl under my skin. It wasn't just the toast, it was what the toast represented. My mother's voice, always sharp, always reminding me of the potential she thought I had. The ball player, the second chance. I ran through the words I would say. Cliché shit. Everyone would expect it. Some nostalgic crap about family, about growing up together, the usual. It was just a toast, no big deal. But then, as I sat there in the dark, I felt something else building. The tension in my shoulders, a knot in my stomach. I was tired of playing their game. Tired of being the son who did what was expected. Never good enough for my dad, always trying to measure up to Brian. But that night, I wasn't going to play it safe. Screw that. I'd play it my way. I didn't write the toast all at once. I scribbled a few lines, erased them, wrote more. It wasn't about my brother, not really. It was about me. I'd give them the damn toast, but I'd also give them something else, something they weren't expecting. The next evening, I showed up at Brookside early. The place was already set up. White tents, twinkle lights, champagne flutes everywhere. It felt too perfect, too rehearsed. My mom was already pacing, checking things off her list like she was running a military operation. "Stay on script," she said when she saw me, eyeing me like I was about to screw this whole thing up. "We're not here to relive your past." I nodded, pretending to care about her directions, but all I could think about was how everything was falling into place. Everyone was going to be there, all the family, friends, the perfect bride, the perfect groom, perfect everything, except me. I was the loose screw. Brian was already in the spotlight. He was the good son, the one with his life together. As I watched him mingle with his fiancée's side, I could see how much it meant to him, how much it mattered that everything was done right. He never had to fight for attention like I did. I never mattered as much. But tonight I was going to matter. Not in the way my mom wanted, but in my own way. Dinner went as expected. It was long and awkward, all small talk and strained laughter. Then the speeches began. Natalie's dad went first, talked about private school, his country club days, how proud he was to welcome Brian into the family. People clapped. My brother went second, talked about some cross-country road trip we took. A couple laughs, a couple pats on the back. Nothing groundbreaking. What nobody knew? I still had my old glove, tucked away in a box under my bed. Some nights I'd take it out, oil it, toss a ball into it while watching TV. Just a habit, something to do with my hands. Muscle memory, nothing more. It wasn't about the game. It wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was just right. After the dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. I drove out to the rec field, parked by the side, and sat in the bleachers watching the empty diamond. The lights were off, but I could still make out the faded lines on the grass. Everything felt quiet, almost like it was waiting for me to show up. I hadn't touched a bat in years, but the itch came back that night. It wasn't for the scouts, not for my dad, not for anyone else, just for me. I could see it now, the way the ball would feel off the sweet spot of the bat, the way the sound would echo across the field. I'd go late when no one was around, and I'd hit off the cage by myself. The balls were cheap and wore out fast, but it didn't matter. I just needed to swing again. I'd forgotten how good it felt, how right it felt. There was something in the rhythm, the repetition. It was just me and the ball, no expectations, no judgment, just doing what I used to do. I started going back every night after work. I'd pull the car into the lot and set the cage up by the fence. Alone, in the dead of night, I'd hit. And every time I did, it was like pulling a thread on a sweater that had been tucked away for years. Little by little, the passion came back. It was like I was waking up from a long sleep. I still wrote the speech for the wedding, like my mom wanted. She'd make sure I said exactly what was expected, nothing more, nothing less. But I started working on something else, too, a side plan. I found out that the groom's family was big into baseball. The dad had been a minor league coach. That stuck with me. A coach, the groom's dad. Maybe this was my chance to push things further, to take the idea of a simple toast and turn it into something more, something real. What if I didn't just talk about the past? What if I used the damn game to pull people in, to give them something they weren't expecting? So I started thinking about it. And the more I thought, the more I liked it. I wasn't just some guy giving a toast. I wasn't just playing my part in my mom's perfect script. I could make it about baseball, about what I lost and what I still had. By the time the wedding rolled around, I had my plan. It wasn't just a speech. It was a message, a reminder, a way to show people who I was without anyone telling me how to do it. It was going to be subtle, simple, but different. I was tired of hiding, tired of being the guy who had to explain himself. This time, I wasn't just showing up. I was going to make them remember me, even if it pissed my mom off, even if Brian didn't get it. The game was coming back in a way I didn't expect, and I was damn sure I wasn't going to let it slip away again. I showed up at Brookside early the day of the rehearsal dinner. My shirt still had iron marks from when I tried to press it at the last minute. My mom was in full control mode, making sure everything went according to plan, as usual. The moment I stepped into the place, I could feel her eyes on me, like she was waiting for me to slip up. "I stay on script," she reminded me, her voice sharp, not even looking up from her clipboard. "We're not here to relive your past." I nodded, but the words didn't sit right. Relive my past? The only thing I had to do was show up and not screw up, right? Keep my head down. Smile. Say a few words about how much I admired Brian growing up. Same damn script I'd been following my whole life. The event had catered drinks, string lights hanging from the rafters, and speeches lined up by the minute. It was fancy, more than it had to be, and I felt out of place in my cheap suit. I was fourth to speak, right after Natalie's dad, who talked about his daughter's accomplishments at private school, and then Brian, who recounted some cross-country road trip we took. I was next. I stood, feeling the heat of the room on my neck. I cleared my throat, the words feeling thick and awkward in my mouth. I opened the paper with the speech I'd written out for this. It wasn't much, just a few lines I could get through without causing any waves. I started in on the script, the usual crap about growing up with Brian, how great he was, how proud I was of him. A few laughs here and there, some polite applause. The crowd was lapping it up. I could see my mom's shoulders relax, her eyes softening, like this was finally going the way she wanted. Then I paused. I let the room hang in silence for a moment. I didn't need the paper anymore. The words came out, not from the script, but from somewhere else. "Brian always had the smarts," I said, looking at my brother, who sat with Natalie, both of them beaming like everything in the world was perfect. And I had baseball, or so I thought. My dad looked up from his glass, his brow furrowing just a little. My mom stiffened, but I didn't look at her. I wasn't doing this for her anymore. "Until I blew it," I continued, the words feeling like they were coming out of someone else's mouth. And I thought that meant I blew everything. I could feel the shift in the room. People were starting to notice. Then, without thinking, I pulled out the ball from my coat pocket, holding it up so everyone could see. "But here's the thing," I said, the silence thick around me. "I still remember how to throw." I turned and tossed it to the groom's dad, who caught it, surprised. "He was a catcher, right?" I added, keeping my tone casual, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. There was a pause, and then a slow ripple of applause. It wasn't much, but it was a moment. I had broken the script. People had seen me do something real. I sat back down, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't look at my mom. I didn't need to. I could feel her glaring at me from across the room, but I wasn't concerned with her. I was more focused on the quiet stir in the crowd. People had noticed. Afterward, a few of them came up to me, asking questions. "You played?" someone asked, a little too eagerly. "You should coach," another guy said, a grin spreading across his face. They weren't mocking me. It wasn't like they were just humoring me. They actually seemed interested. I glanced at my mom, who was frozen in place, her mouth pressed tight. She looked like someone had hijacked her wedding script, and maybe I had. But for once I didn't care. Brian came up to me next, his handshake firm. "That was good," he said, surprised, but not in a way that made it feel forced. Like maybe he hadn't expected that from me. "Yeah," I said, giving him a half smile. Didn't want to bore them with the same old crap. But I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. That was just the warm-up, and I had a feeling there was more to come. The next day I showed up early again. My suit was clean, pressed, no iron marks this time. Everything was calm. Rehearsal went fine, but it was just a warm-up. Before the reception, I slipped out back behind the venue, where nobody could see me. I had arranged this with the groom's dad. He was all for it, laughing like I was pulling off some secret plan. I had a glove in my hand, the one that had been hidden under my bed for years. Tonight, I wasn't going to let it sit there anymore. The father-daughter dance was finishing up, and I took my cue. The whole room was still in the glow of the moment, people swaying and clapping along with the music. I grabbed the mic, making my way out into the open, the glove in my other hand. "Ladies and gents," I said, the mic picking up my voice and stretching it across the room. "The groom's dad and I figured we'd give you something different than the electric slide." A few gasps, a couple of nervous chuckles from the crowd. They were confused, trying to figure out what I was doing, but I didn't care. I tossed the glove onto the ground and knelt to pick up the ball I had tucked into my jacket. We started throwing it back and forth, easy tosses at first, simple little moments. But with each throw, it started to feel real again. The rhythm of it, the weight of the ball in my hand, the way the ball snapped into the air before it came right back to me, just like I had done 1,000 times before. The room fell quiet for a second, and then I heard the clicks, phones coming out. People were watching, capturing this moment. It wasn't the wedding they expected. It wasn't what they had planned for, but it was something real, something they didn't see coming. I glanced up and saw people watching intently, not a single person turning away. The ball passed back and forth. The sounds of our throws filled the space, like an old memory coming back to life. It wasn't about the wedding anymore. It was about the game, about something that had always been mine, something I didn't have to hide. Applause started before we even finished. I could feel the heat of it, the recognition. It was happening. People weren't just watching. They were connected, engaged. I didn't look for my mom, didn't need to. I could feel her eyes burning holes through me from across the room, but that didn't matter. Not this time, not tonight. The groom's dad tossed me the ball one last time, and we wrapped it up with a quick handshake, a few claps on the back. I took off my glove and walked back inside, feeling a rush I hadn't expected. I knew what was coming. My mom would be waiting. She'd corner me later. She'd tell me that I had ruined the night, that I'd overstepped. But I didn't care. That moment, right there, was mine. Something I hadn't planned but needed. I had broken out of the mold they'd kept me in for so long, and it felt good. No going back now. No more following scripts. I'd played my part, and I was finally starting to make my own rules. At the end of the night, I was just about to slip out the door when my mom cornered me near the coat check. I had already half expected this, but it didn't make it any easier. She was fuming, her face red with that familiar, tight-lipped anger. "What was that stunt?" she hissed, her voice low and tight, like she was trying to keep the blowout from happening in front of the guests. "It was a game of catch, Mom," I said, keeping my voice even. I didn't care enough to fight with her, but I wasn't backing down either. You made it about yourself, she snapped. This was your brother's day. No, I said, not letting her finish. You made it your day. I just gave folks a reason to smile. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. She was looking for something to say, some cutting remark, but I knew she didn't have anything left. She knew it too. I wasn't going to bend anymore. Before she could respond, Brian stepped in. He walked up and gave me a handshake, this time with real weight behind it. No fake smiles, no tension. Meant what I said earlier, he said, looking me right in the eye. You should coach, man. I didn't know what to say to that. I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't about to reject it either. Thanks, I said, and that was all. His words landed, whether I liked it or not. That night, I went home and didn't think much about what had happened. I sat on the couch, flipping through random stuff on TV, still buzzing from the night, but trying to act like I didn't care. Then my phone buzzed. It was an email. I opened it. Local youth league is looking for a mentor. We saw a video from the wedding. Are you interested in coaching or mentoring kids? I stared at the screen. I thought about hitting delete, but I couldn't. Something about it felt real, like an unexpected turn. I hadn't seen that coming, not from them, not from anyone. The league was offering me something I hadn't considered in years, something bigger than just showing up and playing at weddings, coaching, giving back, making the game matter again. I sat on the porch, the night air a little too quiet. I just stared at the screen, the email glowing in the dark. It was a chance, something to prove to myself, if nothing else. I didn't know if I was ready, but I was sure as hell considering it. Then my phone buzzed again. It was a text from the groom's dad. Simple. You've still got it. I sat there for a while after that, letting it sink in. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to make me realize that, somehow, I was stepping into something new. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to swing again. A few months later, I signed up as an assistant coach for the City League 13U team. My first time back on a diamond in a decade. The kids were raw, awkward, full of potential, but not much else. They were hungry for anything, even the basics. And I found myself teaching them how to throw a curveball, how to focus on the fundamentals. It felt weird at first, not having the spotlight on me, but being on the other side of it, pushing them to be better than they thought they could be. One of the kids, about 12, looked up at me one day during practice, the question sitting heavy in his eyes. Coach, you ever choke in a game? I didn't flinch. Yeah, I said, my voice steady. And I came back anyway. He nodded, like it made sense to him. Maybe he didn't get it all, but I could see the respect there, and that was enough. It was all I needed to know. I wasn't doing this just for me. The last game of the season, my old man showed up. I saw him sitting behind third base, quiet, just watching. He didn't say a word, never once made a sound. I kept my focus on the game, but I knew he was there, watching. When the game ended, I packed up my gear and started walking to my truck. He was waiting by the side, standing there like he had something to say. Didn't expect to see you, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. He muttered something under his breath, still hard to read. Saw the video, he said. You looked good out there. It was all he could manage. It wasn't much, but it was something, a step maybe, for both of us. I didn't need his approval anymore. That part of me had died a long time ago. But hearing him say it, however little, meant more than I thought it would. Later that night, I sat down on my bed, the glove in my hand. I took the oil and worked it into the leather again, just like I used to. This time, though, it wasn't tucked away under the bed, hidden from view. It was sitting on my bookshelf, out in the open, where it belonged. Sometimes life gives you one shot. Other times, it lets you take your swing again. I missed mine the first time. But now I was stepping back into the box. And this time, I wasn't swinging for him. I was swinging for me.